and gentlemen, we're here. Another
Lean
episode
back.
of In the Bag, in
Lean
the
back.
house. This be your boys, ABB and RC, holding it down.
You know. So, hey, it's almost Thanksgiving. We're recording this on Wednesday. We typically record on Thursday, but, the bird's in the house, so we're going Wednesday recording this week.
Got to get it done.
I'm excited because Thanksgiving means one thing.
Ooh, what does it mean?
Other than family and all that. It means, gross, right? It means Thanksgiving pizza, the tradition in my family. If you've all been a Foundation fan for a little bit, you probably heard me refer to it on the banter or some other avenues here. And I think I might bring one in for the guys after Thanksgiving this year too. So I'm pretty stoked about that. So, Thanksgiving pizza here, let me lay it out for you. So you can make one at home,
Come on.
All right. You got a homemade pizza dough is that's the key ingredient. It's got to be homemade. You can't go buy it. I mean, I'm sure it'll be decent, but homemade pizza dough.
Next
Then
level.
you throw the sauce, gravy. Next layer, a little bit of stuffing. Next layer, a little bit of cheese. Next layer, a little bit of mashed potatoes. Next layer, a little bit of chopped up turkey. And if you get crazy, some people have put cranberry on it before. That's gross, so don't do that. But, if you're feeling wild, do it. A little bit of cheese, drizzle the gravy on the top, some parsley, a little bit of garlic. And then if you get a little wild, which I did last year, you can put make a garlic butter and brush it on the crust. And boom, put it in the oven, bring it out, and you got Thanksgiving pizza. So you're welcome for that. Try it at home. It's great. Spaghetti pizza is also good if you've never done that before.
That is a recipe for sure.
Welcome to In the Kitchen.
Welcome to In the Kitchen. If it's good, keep it stuffing. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. Let us know your favorite Thanksgiving dishes in the comments down below. Would love to hear.
And if you're like me and going to gain like 15 pounds tomorrow, or actually yesterday, if you're listening to this podcast, then hey, there's a great place to shop for some new clothes and just a size up. It's Flippy Disc Golf.
What a transition! Come on, Brad.
I know that was A plus.
That was A plus. That was nice. Yeah. I was like, "Where's he going with this?"
You know where he's going? In a new hoodie, in a new jersey, and a new polo. Flippy has it all in the bag, branded Foundation, Robbie C. Even if you're a Swanky fan, shout out Swanky. All of those you can find on Flippy Disc Golf. Make sure you use the link below to get yourself some savings. But hey, they're doing Black Friday sales anyway that are going to get you more. So make sure, hey, if you're a Foundation customer and are on our email list, you already got an email for the heads up.
Yeah, you
get some sweet deals. Make sure you check those out. Again, we're working on some new stuff in the background. It may come out first of the year at this point, but hey, get this stuff while it lasts because we are taking some stuff down. So make sure if you want to get some new jerseys for the course, some I call them casual jerseys. You can wear them on the course, off the course. And then you have the new Soul Pro material. And again, hoodies, t-shirts, you name it, it's on there. Make sure you check out. Support Aaron, support Flippy Disc Golf. They do a lot for us here at Foundation and on In the Bag, and we thank them greatly for that. So make sure you check them out. And it's, hey, you got time. If you need a Christmas present, you need that last little thing to wrap up the gift barrage for your family or loved one, now's a great time. Yeah, again, use the Black Friday deals that are going on right now. And if you miss those, that's okay. If you're listening to this a little later, you can still use the code Foundation below and save yourself some cash.
Absolutely. Well, y'all, I feel pretty cozy right now, chilling in my Flippy hoodie. A little in the bag there. But you know who else is feeling cozy right now, Brad?
Probably Mike. He's in the waiting area. Let's bring him in.
Ooh, let's bring him in. Welcoming into the podcast, Mike. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great, man. I hear some rumors about your game and your bag, so I'm really excited to jump in. Again, I don't know anything coming into this until right before the episode, but Robbie very rarely says only throw forehands. So that was the instruction I got. And then I can now see your bag, and I'm like, wait a second. I asked Robbie immediately, I'm like, this looks like a right-handed setup, but is this guy left-handed? Yeah. So, and he's like,
Just wait. It'll be good.
No spoilers here. Yeah, I'm very intrigued.
Yeah. So Mike, tell us a little bit about, before we dive into distances and everything, how long you've been playing and a little bit about your disc golf journey.
Yeah. So I started November of 2021. So about 2 years. My brother-in-law introduced me to playing, and so I grew up as a lefty, throw lefty, right lefty. But for whatever reason, whenever I picked up a disc, like even as a kid, like I always threw in righty. So, so I've always thrown them righty. So when I got into disc golf, I immediately started playing right hand, backhand. And some of the guys that I play with, they throw forehands, and it intrigued me. So knowing that I couldn't throw a righty, forehand, I started doing it lefty. And Robbie, watching some of your videos, the whole concept of starting with an understable disc was super interesting to me. So I immediately started throwing forehands lefty with mostly understable discs.
Okay, I love it. Well,
that makes sense.
Yeah, like seeing it, I think it's phenomenal, and excited to kind of talk through the journey. Sound like looking at the disc that you've got in your bag feels like you're in the heart of it right now. So very, very pumped to dive into this and hopefully add some.
And I really like your bag,
options.
by the way. It's like, I feel like it's pretty well put together. There's definitely something we're going to talk about, but I definitely like where your head is with your bag.
I appreciate it.
So let's talk distances on this. You can throw in your backhand. I know you said you most dominant forehand, but if you want to throw in your backhand distance, we put a basket out in the field. How far are you reaching consistent, accurate distance?
Yeah, so I really will use my right hand backhand if I want to give my forehand a break. So I'll throw it every once in a while. It's definitely not as consistent, but I would say like control distance would probably be between like 220 and 225.
Okay. Awesome. And then how about forehand?
So forehand control distance, I would say between 270 and 280. Obviously, if I get a hold of one, I could put it over 300, but if I'm walking up to a 300-foot basket, I'm not anticipating that I'm going to reach it.
Okay. Just going to rely on the putt, close it out. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. So we put you on the putting green, and we're like, all right, Mike, you got 10 putts from 15 feet, 10 putts from 25, and 10 putts from 40 feet. How many are you making at each station?
So I think my putting isn't as great as it used to be, but from 15 feet, I'm going to say 7 out of 10. One's going to probably hit the band, and 2 are probably going to hit the basket. Okay. And then from 25 feet, I'm going to say between 3 and 4. And then from 40, it's really just luck at that point. I would say between 1 and 2 if I'm lucky.
Okay. Just trying to chucking it up there and then hoping
you're on that
in.
year 2 grind. I feel that. I feel that. I've been there and I feel that.
Yeah, it's definitely tough when you're still, because at 2 years, I feel like some people would be like, oh, well, you're not that new to disc golf anymore. And then others are like, yeah, no, you're very much still new for sure, especially like a motorsport like this, and not motorsport in terms of like NASCAR and engines, but like a fine motorsport. That's the.
And I think when you start putting, you don't think about it as much, and then when you start progressing, you start thinking about every little thing, and
that's the truth.
And then you start missing them.
That's true.
If people watch Foundation main content, then I loved the Level Up series. What do they call it? It's not Level Up. It's like
Course Conquest.
Course Conquest. That's what it is. Where they were trying to make putts, and they were like, party trick. It's a party trick. If you just say like, oh yeah, here, toss this in real fast, like you said, Mike, you just don't miss it. And so it was hilarious. They kept the whole time when they had to make the comeback, they were like, it's a party trick. Just do a party trick.
That's funny. I actually watched that yesterday. So
yeah,
very relevant.
Incredible. So let's talk through your bag, Mike. Can I
ask a question really quick before we start, Robbie?
Fire away.
And you're going to answer this. I think I can see what you do here, because just for anyone that's listening, for even a new player that's like, wait, he's throwing right hand, backhand, and left hand, forehand. Those both go the same direction. So what are you relying on to go to if you need to like a left to right shot? Are you relying on like an understable backhand or an understable forehand, or yes to both of those answers? Are you really working the understable side? Or are you trying to like work, you said you can't throw a right hand forehand, but can you throw a backhand left-handed? Are you using that shot? What is your shot preference for like a left to right shot?
Mm.
Yeah, so I can't throw a lefty backhand. That's something that I probably should practice. I think it would help me. But if I need a left to right shot, a lot of times I'm going to throw something like the Leopard and throw it on Hyzer and let it flip up and turn over to the right.
Okay, so you're really relying on your like backhand turnover for that left to right shot.
Or forehand.
Or
normally.
forehand, yeah.
Yeah.
They're the same, I guess, technically. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Just making sure, just wanted to make sure I understood and then also paint the picture for our guests before we jump into the discs. I think it makes a lot of sense based on the discs that I'm seeing as well.
Yeah, because the vibe that I get of your bag right now is most discs in your bag are in extremes one way or the other. Like they're very understable or they're very stable.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, really looking at it, like I see two that might not fit that category, and that's about it. So, especially as a predominant forehand player. Mm-hmm. So let's start with the putters. You putt with Pierce. Super great putter. A lot of float to it. One of the best putters that I know personally putts with Pierce, and it is ridiculous how he can just like zoop. His name's Ben Swam, and he just
shout out Ben.
He throws like 50-foot putts all the time, and just zoop. Like we joke because Ben doesn't throw as far as anyone in our group, but like 100%. When we land, we're like, ooh, that's a tester. And Ben will land 20 feet behind us. And we're like, oh, yeah, that's in Ben range. Easy peasy. So what do you like about the Pure?
So I started using the Pure because it's a little bit more shallow. I have smaller hands, so it was just naturally a little bit more comfortable for me.
Okay. I believe it. I'm here for it. Let's talk about the watt.
Yeah,
what is up with your watt?
Yeah, so the watt is newer to the bag. I threw a glitch for a little bit, but the lightweight threw me off a lot. So I bought a watt, started throwing it. I use it primarily for like approach shots where I need to, even on forehand, throw it, to finish right and maybe like bend around a tree. I could also throw it on like baby Hyzer flips and do it that way as well.
Okay. So that's soft. Yeah. Not really ever full power throwing the watt.
No.
Okay. Cool. If you have to throw the full power shot, is that where the rhinos kind of step in?
Yeah. The rhinos are probably my go-to approach disc. So I started with the R Pro. So that one's a little bit more beat in. That'll hold a line if I throw it on, Anheuser or Hyzer, or if I just hit it straight. And then it also has less ground play, being that it's the R Pro. And then I recently got that Halo one, and that's a little bit more stable.
Yeah, and something I love about Disc RPM is I love seeing all of these discs. So I can see all of Mike's disc right now. We'll hold it for the camera. You can kind of see it here, but you can check out the link in the description for his bag. But that's a very cool rhino. That's maybe the coolest one I've ever seen.
It is cool. It's crazy how they have a thumb track disc made by Innova and Halo plastic.
Weird. I just thought that wasn't possible.
I thought it wasn't possible, but here we are with a rhino and Halo plastic. To say I'm jealous, Mike, I have to move past this disc.
Yeah, we've got to go to mids before Robbie gets really upset.
So let's talk about the Pathfinder. What's the Pathfinder do for you?
Yeah, so the Pathfinder on forehand, I've used it mostly for like a panning, like Hyzer shot, or like a panning and Hyzer shot, just because it's pretty neutral. It can handle the torque, but it's going to more so just like drift, right? Like, and it's going to land soft. So I'll use that for, longer approach shots or, on tees that are not as far. I could also throw that one on backhand if I decide to, as well, as more of it's a little bit more stable, I guess, for my backhand.
Yeah. Brad, have you thrown a Pathfinder yet?
I have not. I actually have it on deck to try out for my bag, to be honest with you. It's literally sitting on my desk to try.
Yeah. The Pathfinder I think you described it really well, Mike, and the torque resistance. Because I think if you looked at the numbers 5501, you would be like, that does not feel like a disc that you can forehand very easily because it just doesn't have the stability to handle it and everything. But if you watch people like Bedanza throws the junk out of a Pathfinder, and I mean, he's trying to crush that thing, and it's not like it just burns over or anything for him. It holds really straight even. So I think it's surprisingly torque resistant. So really, really cool option by them in the Pathfinder.
I'm honestly trying to look to replace like my Nebula spot.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that my only concern is like, I don't know if that's going to run into my hex or not, just because my hex is pretty straight for me. And I think the Pathfinder will probably be that, but maybe it'll surprise me, maybe in some of that swirly plastic. I think Nebula, I don't know. I forget their plastic type. I'm sorry, but I think even maybe in that plastic, because it kind of reminds me of the Mustang a lot, to be honest with you. And the Mustang in like an Apex swirl plastic is surprisingly has a touch of stability, not a lot, just like a touch of it, and that's really. So I'm just kind of looking into that. So that's good to hear, Mike. I like to hear that feedback because maybe, truthfully, it might be the wrong disc for me now that you describe it that way. But that's also good to know. But the other disc that is kind of in that category is the Quake for me, which you have in your bag. Tell me about the Quake and the Yarn. Like, why are those two in the bag? Are they? I'm guessing it's probably I do this one forehand, I do this one backhand. If I had to guess.
Exactly. So the Yarn is all forehand, and the Quake, if I decide to throw backhand and it's windy, I'm going to throw the Quake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you tried forehand in the Quake, or just too much or whatever?
Yeah, I have, but I don't know if it's because it has like a bead in a sense to it. It for some reason it doesn't fly right when I throw it on forehand. And it might just be me, but it doesn't fly right.
Yeah, that's super fascinating because the Rhino has a pretty pronounced bead on it as well. It's not even hard to call the Rhinos a bead. It's more like a wall. Like it's very. When I think of bead, you know what I'm saying? Like when I think of a bead, I think of a rounded object, and the Rhinos is pronouncedly is not the right word, but you guys can help me with whatever word that is. But it's like it's just taller than a normal bead. So, fascinating. Okay, so if you jump over to the uplink, what's the uplink do?
Yeah, so I think when I started throwing forehands, I threw the uplink a little bit more just because I can throw it easier. I can throw it on a lot of Hyzer. It'll flip up and it'll still finish to the right for me. As I've progressed, I use it more as like a longer watt shot. So if I want to throw like a big Hyzer shot where I can release it like flat, and it's going to pan to the right. I could throw it a little bit higher and it's going to finish on that like Hyzer line.
Awesome. Yeah. A longer watt is such a good description. I mean, MVP, if you make us able to order custom uplinks, we'll do it without even blinking.
We're ready. We're ready.
We are ready and excited. It's such an easy disc to throw. Like that's the thing. We had my brother on for an episode, Mike, and we gave him an uplink, and he was just like, man, it's just burning over a lot. And I was like, why? Stop trying to kill it. Like you don't 50%. Throw far, so that's fine. Just throw it easy. And he's like, oh, and then sure enough, zoop, just flies beautifully. So you'll love to see that. So you have the uplink. What's the progression towards the Leopard in your bag?
Yeah, so I would say I throw the Leopard off the tee more than like an uplink. Especially if I'm in the woods, I know that I can hit that on Hyzer and I don't have to throw it super hard, and I can hit some of those gaps and it'll stand up and finish to the right. And if I put on a lot of Hyzer, I can sometimes get it to finish to the left as well. So that's really where I would use that Leopard.
And this is a really cool feature that Brad mentioned about disc RPM, the fact that we can see it. I'm seeing that's a factory second Leopard, and it looks like it's seen some things. Like it looks very well loved.
Yeah, my brother-in-law bought that as like one of my first discs. And I actually didn't really use it a lot at the beginning because I was throwing backhand. It was actually a little bit stable for me when I started. And then one day I just decided I was going to try that on forehand, and it was surprising.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. It continues to be one of my favorite features of disc RPM is like someone will describe a disc to us and we're like, yeah, I guess I can see it. Or they'll like pull it up on the camera, but when we shoot versus when like with the recording versus the actual product that the viewers see can be drastically different,
Yep.
like because it comes out in much nicer quality when y'all see it. So we'll have a moment where it's like, yeah, you can see it. And I'm like, that looks like pixelated garbage. Like I can't see it at all. But we just
Yeah.
yeah,
looks
yeah,
good.
yeah. So it's super nice being able to see it here. Okay, I want to talk about the Passion, but I'm going to jump over to the Terra first because that feels like it is out in left field.
Yeah, so for the Terra, I used to actually have a Raptor in that spot. The Raptor, I don't know if it was just because it was Big Z or what, but it was just inconsistent. So if I hit it right, it would do exactly what I wanted, but if I didn't, it would even burn to the right for me. So I picked up the Terra, and that one, I would say I'm not super confident with it yet. That one will, if I hit it right, it'll behave exactly how the numbers suggest. It'll stay in the air for a while and it'll finish to the left. But I've gotten into some issues with it where it definitely wants to burn over just because it's got that extra glide, I think, to it.
Very interesting.
Okay. Yeah. And I'd be curious because the thing with drivers in general that I struggle with MVP is the get it up to speed aspect of them. And that makes it more overstable. So I wonder if that's helping at all. Like if you're not crushing a forehand and you're trying to throw it, if that like extra gyro capability jumps in at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe I'm just trying to throw it too hard and not focusing as much on the spin. And maybe that's why sometimes it hasn't been consistent for me, but I'm definitely not confident in that slot right now.
Yeah, that's fair. Definitely. And the nice thing is, Mike, there's about 90 options in that slot. So especially once you get to like Firebirds and Felons, where they come in a billion plastics already, you could do a lot there. So let's talk about the Passion. Passion.
100K
sweeping the country. 100K Passion in the bag. Here we go. What's the Passion do for you? Yeah,
so the Passion is my Hyzer flip finish left disc on forehand. So especially especially when I'm in the woods, I can throw that on Hyzer. I don't have to throw it super hard. It'll flip up and then it'll carry straight for a while and then finish to the left.
Would you say longer Pathfinder or somewhat different?
I would say a little bit different just because when I throw the Pathfinder, I don't normally throw it on Hyzer, like as like a Hyzer flip shot. That Pathfinder is more of that, panning, Hyzer shot, whereas the Passion, I'm trying to flip it up and then have it finish left.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I think that's a very important distinction. Like as someone, I like to Hyzer flip everything if I can. But like having a disc that you can rip flat and straight, especially depending on wind situations, super, super helpful. Final two discs in the bag. What's the difference between the Heat and the Freetails?
Yeah. So the Heat, I feel like is just in my bag as a roller, even though I don't really throw rollers. I've also been experimenting with throwing that on Hyzer flip shots. It's not my favorite disc to throw on forehand just because it's a little bit, it's got a little bit more dome to it. Whereas the Freetail is like my max distance forehand disc. I could throw that on Hyzer. It'll flip up. It'll turn to the right, and then it'll finish back to the left.
Okay.
Yeah, the Freetail, although its numbers are -4-1, I believe. Let me just double check. Yeah. Yep. I would say I disagree with those. I always feel like it is not as understable as you think it's going to be. The one is correct. It definitely will come back. But I had one like really lightweight Freetail, and I forget which plastic it was in. I could get that one to just like turn and keep turning. But like especially the Apex Swirl ones they just came out with, those things have like a little chunk to them, like at the end. So very misleading disc. I think a lot of people don't try the Freetail because of that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I think it really unlocked a lot of distance for me. I think it's also, they call it a finesse driver, which I think is very true, because if you don't hit it right, I mean, it can get you into some trouble for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Fascinating. Well, Brad, you tried out 2 discs to try to help a slot. Do you see the slot I was going for?
Yeah, overstable fairway. We need an overstable fairway in there. Not the Terra, not something like super overstable. So definitely, I think we hit the gap we were looking for, Robbie.
Okay.
So tried out today. We tried the Innova Eagle, and we also tried out the Dynamic Disc Evader here. So I was really excited to try out. I've been wanting to throw the Eagle. So I got to throw that. Now I didn't throw it on any backhands. I didn't throw any backhands today, so I'll have to do that at a later date. But I feel like I don't try a lot of Trilogy, and not because I don't like Trilogy. I just don't try it. I think I get a little overwhelmed with all of the variety of everything that I see. I just feel like I don't know what to throw. And you know how it is. If you go to a new manufacturer and you actually try something and you throw the first disc you throw is bad, then you're going to have a bad taste in your mouth. So I'm glad I'm getting to throw the Evader in this setting where I'm focused on what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this matchup for me personally, like there are 3 discs that I really, really love in this fairway slot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, based on certain preferences and where my arm speed's at and things like that, I have to move through them. And 2 of the 3 that I love, you have in your hands right now, Brad. So
Okay.
this is fun. The Stalker is the easiest of the ones to throw in this same category for me. But yeah, so super excited to talk about these. You've got how to hand feel. We'll talk hand feel first.
Yeah. I think the only thing that's kept me from the Eagle as long as it has is like it does have like a little bit of like flashing like problem here on the end for me. It's not like, no offense, old Prodigy. It's not like that where I feel like it's going to cut my hand. It's a little like little ASMR. I don't know if you can hear that. It kind of catches just a little bit. It's not going to cut my hand. It doesn't scare me once I get a grip on it. But if I'm giving comfort to a disc, it's got to be the Evader. It feels great. I mean, this one's lucid and it just feels really good. The shoulder feels good. There's no flashing that's catching my finger on the way over, and it just kind of fits in my hand really well.
Okay. Yeah. Evader is one of those discs that like Dynamic came out with, and they already have the Explorer. They have a couple other options in that straight fairway slot, and I think the Evader just got slept on, and it gets overlooked by tons and tons of folks. So, okay, so you took it out to the field, and you threw no backhands. You threw a forehand with it. What were initial thoughts?
Okay, so I actually didn't look at the Evader flight numbers before I threw them on purpose because I didn't want to be skewed. I just wanted to see what this did. Obviously, this particular Eagle has the flight numbers on here. I always get scared when I see 4 glide because I think as still like I'm gonna call myself an elder newbie at disc golf, just approaching that 3-year mark. I'm convinced if there's something with a 4 glide, I can't throw it very far, and I just won't even pick it up. But from the last 2 episodes, the Zombie was the other one that I never thrown because of that reason. It's a 4 glide also. But that glide did not affect me. I didn't feel like these didn't fly as far as they needed to because of the 4 glide. When I threw them, I think they both behaved. The Eagle behaved exactly like I thought it would on forehand, which is I'm like a Hyzer release on forehand, like a baby Hyzer, more like this-ish angle for those that are watching. And the Eagle would flip up, and again, I threw it on a bunch of different angles, so I did find that I had to be aware of the angle a little bit more with the Eagle, just because if I gave it too much Hyzer, that overstability, it's a 7.4 -1.3. I did feel like that overstability kicked in. The more Hyzer input I gave it, the more it wanted to behave that way. The more Hyzer input I gave it, the more turn it wanted to have. Which again, I think there's a lot of practicality for a disc like that, right? If I threw it really flat, it definitely would just kind of pop up and then have an overstable finish, like reliable finish. So I think with a little practice with something like an Eagle, I could be pretty proficient with a lot of different shots, which I like. The evader just came out of my hand so clean every time. It was just like immediately my favorite. And I had to like throw multiple shots again because I was like, wow, that came out of my house. My hand was zero wobble. It like flew, I could just see the rotation on it. And it like, it wouldn't flip, but it would keep the line that I gave it and then finish like every time. So like, and that's an underrated shot, Robbie, that I think I don't like think that I need a lot, but just a disc that would just kind of have that big, I'll call it a horseshoe, like that big horseshoe shot. Like I can give this evader like a little bit of hyzer. It won't flip up, but it'll hold that hyzer and give me a nice big like horseshoe shape, which is really cool. And there's a couple times in the practice field that I throw. Robbie actually got to see that in person last time he was here. There's a couple like signs that are out there in that field, like on the end of the property. And I was like, found myself like, I'm like, okay, well, how far left can I throw this to get this to come all the way back to the right and reach out and touch that sign? So very interesting flight. The evader is like overstable enough that I could give it a full flex line. If I gave it some Anheuser encouragement. And then the eagle, though, if I gave it too much Anheuser, it wouldn't come back. So I didn't, again, probably with the evader. I mean, if I threw it like this, it wouldn't come back. But there was a breaking point for the eagle where it just would just keep turning. It wouldn't burn, but it would just keep turning for me. Yeah. Whereas the evader was not doing that.
Yeah. To borrow words from a friend of mine named Mike, would you say that it was like a panning shot? That horseshoe that you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Because my friend Mike he's a Pathfinder that does something like that. So
weird.
Crazy. That
might how it does that.
Interesting. Yeah. The eagle to me has always been like for Innova throwers, elitists, things like that. The debate of Innova is T-Bird versus Eagle. And the TL3 lovers, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to disgrace you, but you're not part of this conversation, unfortunately. Different disc. So the T-Bird versus the Eagle, I've always described the Eagle as a more extreme T-Bird. It fades harder than a T-Bird, but it also has more turn than a T-Bird does as well. And so I completely get what you're saying of it's just once it gets in it, it stays in it. But you think about like Calvin, right? Throwing his eagles. That's why you see his eagles just get like all this movement out of them. And then somehow
come back. Yeah.
It still comes back. So
it was a cool disc. Like it was really fun to throw. I just don't know. For me, I do think this is maybe, you know how the Freetail is like a finesse driver. Again, they are not the same disc, so I'm not comparing the Freetail and the Eagle, but I think there's probably like a certain amount of finesse that maybe like a more experienced player could have with more angle control and more speed control that you could get a lot done with an Eagle for sure.
Yeah. I'm here for it. So what's the suggestion then?
I think based on, this is a tough one. Because I came in here saying evader was the call.
Yeah.
But I like where you're at in your game, Mike. I like that you're like experimenting with shots and stability and understability, and you rely a lot on like Anheuser shots to accomplish some of those things. So I'm kind of torn, Robbie, because the evader is a solid. It fits right in the gap in your bag that you have there. That I believe evader is what 740 2.5.
Yeah, something like that.
If it's like. It might be what you're looking for. Like you're unhappy with the Terra. I think what you're unhappy with the Terra, you'll love about the evader. So I think like it would kick the Terra out. You'd have the evader, and the evader wouldn't be so overstable that you can't throw other shots with it. But I don't know. The Eagle also sounds like it might fit really well because the gap's pretty wide. That's what I'm thinking too. Yeah. The gap's pretty wide. And I don't know, you might be able to do extra shots with the Eagle. So I don't know, Robbie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think in my mind, the beauty is like seeing that it's 100K passion. I know that you've had it in your hands for less than 2 months. So there's still time for that disc to beat in and have some modified flight. So when I'm thinking of like the flexibility, if I'm thinking of the 1-2 punch of 2 discs in his bag, I like the evader passion punch more
true.
so than trying to necessarily slot the Eagle in and see what it does between the Terra and the Passion. Personally, the real question is, Mike, do either of these sound interesting to you, and which one stands out more?
Yeah, I think both of them sound super interesting. But I would agree. I think the Evader might fill that gap, and maybe even kick out that Terra, and then I can experiment with another more stable fairway.
Yeah. And I think there's something to probably be said as well with the Eagle and it having so many shot variety and things you could throw with it. I think that does maybe cause some confusion in a bag. You're trying to really feel out what you like and what you don't like. Whereas the Evader, it still has multiple purposes, but it's like a little bit more of a narrow type of purpose disc. So I definitely think there's something that needs to be said about that. So yeah, absolutely. We'll send you out the Evader. You let us know how you feel about it. And would you be willing to come back on and tell us, how it's working and is it still in the bag?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Mike, we really appreciate you coming on today, man. That was a very fun thought experiment with basically right hand and left-handed person, but throwing the same shot shape really for each one. So that was fun. We've not had a guest like that. Very unique.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll see you in a future episode, Mike.
See you, man.
Thank you.
What an episode. I'm here
very
for
unique.
it.
Very unique.
One thing I appreciate about Mike's clarity is that at least he leaned in and was like, I own it. You know what? I'm throwing this lefty backhand. It makes me chuckle when I'll meet a player who does what Mike is doing in terms of like a righty backhand and a lefty forehand.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, yeah, I just don't see the problem. Like, I don't see why that would be an issue. And I'm like, we develop both shots so that we have
more shots.
Yeah. But you can accomplish it in a multitude of ways. And I like that he even is saying like, I just need to learn a lefty backhand.
Yeah.
And at 2 years into the journey, he probably already knows some of the mistakes of what he learned in learning the righty backhand.
Yeah.
So it's always like, even though you're not as coordinated, you know what faults to not look for when building the habits on the left side.
Well, it's really interesting too, because we have natural lefty, actually 3 natural lefties.
Yeah.
Silas, Trevor, and Jonah are all lefties.
Yeah.
And they all throw right-handed. Oh yeah, I forgot you were too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always forget until I see you right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, very common. I mean, again, left-hand gang, right? That's just kind of something you do. But so I respect it. I respect it.
Yeah. Now, we talked about it a lot in this episode, but we of course want to say thank you to our presenting bag sponsor of Disc RPM.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, we just can't preach the wonder of this platform enough. I think there are few people in the world who spend as much time on when we were working through a previous website, there were few people that spent so much time on there, even myself having to go through application after application after application. Mm-hmm. The number of people that would like show me their bags, things like that. I spend a lot of time looking at bags. Disc RPM makes this so easy, and you could just tell there's a story behind every disc. We know there's a story behind every disc in your bag, whether it's a story because it's just new, or it's a story that's like, hey, this is like a really old beat-in disc, like Mike's Leopard. Mm-hmm. But just being able to, as we're doing the interview, to be able to see, oh, this is what he's throwing. Because there's runs, right, that we even know. I mean, you've seen it, Brad. Like, there are runs of a disc that are just more overstable. So they send us their bag ahead of time. And if we don't get the chance to discuss it, I could easily, I think of a Roadrunner as a great example. Yep. There are certain Roadrunner runs that I know don't fly like Roadrunners. They fly much more like Leopards or even like T-Birds because they're just super overstable. But with my with Disc RPM, with Disc RPM, I get the chance to see what disc is in their bag and go, oh, okay, well, they have a Roadrunner there. So don't think that's what's on the chart. I can make a suggestion better because I get to see the discs. So
yeah, for sure. And it's just fun. I know that Mike was part of the 100K passion stream, which is very cool. You know what I mean? There's just, like you said, there's a story behind every disc. It's awesome to be able to see it. Plus, our In the Bag community, you guys are like really jumping in there. We really appreciate it. I mean, we started after, this is only our 3rd episode. So after 2 episodes, we're up to like 217 people. in
Yeah.
our community on there, which is awesome. So, hey, there's more of you out there. It's free. It is free. There's no gimmicks. There's no anything. It's free.
Yeah.
Just go do it, and we can see all your awesome discs that you have in there. And starting next week, we are only going to be pulling guests from Disc RPM. So make sure your bags are in there. If you've submitted a form already, that's fine. But we want to match it up with the disc and Disc RPM. So make sure you're putting your disc in there. It only takes a few minutes, and hey, it's fun. You get to put a picture of all your actual discs. And hey, if you don't have time to do that, you can just go put them in as a just stock looking disc for the moment, and then add them in as you have time. Which, my bags changed a little bit, Robbie. I need to go update mine. Speaking of which,
Yeah.
so
And I love. Shout out to we want to highlight a member each week, right? We've got a previous guest, actually, Footfault DG Lore, with it makes me chuckle because he's got a Chick-fil-A destroyer.
I know.
And has a really beautiful dyed DD. My favorite, though, is the Prodigy F3 he has with Son Goku on it. Like, it is
Kid Goku.
looking so good. And then a little Pickle Rick vibe on an Envy. It's so fun scrolling through, and you have some people, like I saw one bag on here that was all black, and I'm not sure if like you actually throw an all black bag or you just chose all black for your upload options. It's really cool. Great conversation starter. So just a great, really, really cool, grateful to Disc RPM. But as you go through this and you have your bags, you're going to see other people, and you're going to be like, oh, I see that he has this F3. I'm curious. I've never thrown an F3. Where can people go to get new Frisbees?
Yep. Well, hey, foundationdisc.com, obviously. So let's run through a few quick things here. You're listening to this, it's Black Friday, or maybe you're listening to it on Saturday, and you probably missed
Black
it.
Friday.
It was Black Friday. So first off, everything on foundationdisc.com as far as discs are all 20% off. Every brand, every manufacturer, doesn't matter. They're all 20% off. Apparel, accessories, all 15% off for the whole Black Friday weekend and Cyber Monday. Same with the discs. Friday, 5 p.m. So if you're listening to this, you're already 2 hours late. Mystery boxes, 3-disc mystery boxes. These are wild. We even changed up the plan. My all black box boxes I've been saving all year, and we set aside some other cool things like Foundation custom stamps that are only in mystery boxes, stuff that's only in USDGC, time lapses, dark Yulis, a couple signed Robbie 50K hexes, which you could not get, by the way. They just happened to be there. All those got sprinkled about, and some of the black on black disc I've been saving all year were going to be the special disc in boxes, and we're like, no, we want to be extra special. So we put more custom stamped in there, and some boxes are getting a special custom stamped disc and an all black on black disc. So they're wild. They're crazy. And then Hunter's thrown in like Waffle House Destroy or buzzes, and it just got crazy yesterday and today. We've been making mystery boxes. We're a little insane. So those go on sale Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And then we have our apparel drop, all the apparel that was only previously available at USCGC. So windbreakers, combo stamp hoodies, long sleeve dry fits, hats, and Foundation beanies are all dropping on Friday at 5 p.m. as well. And again, all these sales and everything go on for the entire weekend. We also have a ton of stock Discraft, stock Innova. Robbie, have you seen the pictures from the warehouse lately? Has Jason shared any of those with you? I gotta take a picture. It is a madhouse in there. All right. Within 2 days, our full Discraft restock showed up with literally every single mold and plastic they offer.
Come on.
Innova, pretty much the same thing. Every single mold and almost every plastic they offer showed up the next day. And then the next day, our MVP restock with our time lapses and hexes, neutron hexes that have not been out for a while, glitches, all that just showed up. So all of the popular molds we're trying to get up, not all of it will be up. Obviously, that would be impossible for like an army of people to do.
Yeah.
But we're getting all the popular molds up. So the hexes and the glitches and the envies and the buzzes and the Zone OSs and the Eagles and the Thunderbirds and the Rolos, all that are already up as we speak. So just check recently restock. That's your best friend. Make sure you do that. And then on Monday, on Cyber Monday, you're hearing me right now. This has not been by you listening to this episode, it has not been leaked. There's a special mystery box that is being released on Cyber Monday only. We are only making a handful of them I can't tell you exactly what they are. It'll be announced on Saturday. Saturday, the 25th? Whatever Saturday is.
Yeah.
So make sure you check your email for that. Make sure you check foundationdisc.com and our stories. But there's a special mystery box being dropped on Monday only at 9 a.m. You heard it here first. You're going to want that one. That one's got all kinds of goodness in it. And it's a gift that keeps on giving for more than just one day. That's your hint.
Ooh.
That's your hint. So, hey, we appreciate you all. Thank you for our subscription box subscribers and the ones that, especially from In the Bag, that you've left notes. I know there's a little bit of a snafu on the mystery part and the guessing part, but there's a ton of cool stuff. We're able to give multiple prizes to hundreds of people versus one prize to one winner. So it all kind of worked out for everybody. But be on the lookout for your subscription boxes. They're on their way. And as always, we appreciate you all. And as you're getting all this stuff for Black Friday, all this stuff for Cyber Monday, all the stuff for Christmas and the gifts you're giving, you got to make sure if you grab it, you got to test it, you got to throw it. And if it's good,
keep it in the bag.
We'll see y'all next week.